Welcome to the Ignorance is Strength podcast. I'm your host, Fabian motherfucking Ojeda, and I don't know shit, but that's okay. All right. Let's get this shit started. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the Ignorance is Strength podcast. Hope you all enjoyed episode number 48 with Nini Ndongo Macias. Definitely an interesting girl there. Hope to see her and grow in whatever project she's involved in. She's got a lot of them, so we'll keep an eye out for that pageant and keep an ear open for her music. We're back today with a brand new guest, and he's the man right in the middle of the world of Wally. Let's welcome to the podcast, Mr. William. Wally, how you doing today, man?
I am fantastic, man. I appreciate the invitation.
Definitely. You got a bit of a southern drawl there. Where are you joining us from?
A little bit. I'm from a little place called Columbia, Mississippi. I actually was born and raised in a metropolis just outside of Columbia called Kokomo, Mississippi. And no, it is not. It has no connection to the Beach Boys song. I wish it did. I wish Kokomo would have been that cool.
Yeah, man. No, I've been to the South, and I really, it's a little bit different from LA. I'm out here in LA, and I don't know, the people just seem very, very much more like warm and welcoming. In fact, I've got my little Alabama sweater on today. I don't even, I don't watch college football or anything like that. So it's funny. My older brother, he was stationed out in Georgia, and I took a road trip all the way out from Georgia back to LA, right? And one of the stops was in Alabama because you had to stop for the night and everything. And I remember we went to a fireworks shop, and they gave us a whole bunch of fireworks for $20, right? And the thing is, they were legal out there. In LA, you can't buy these. They're considered illegal fireworks, right? You go to TJ and get them, but you'll get in trouble.
Right.
But ever since then, he's like, "Oh, you love Alabama." I'm like, I don't know about that. I've been there once, but he got me this Alabama sweater, so I wear it all the time now.
Well, when it comes to the Deep South, Alabama's not a poor choice, that's for sure. They're pretty successful in everything they do. You said your brother was in the military?
Yeah, he was in the Army. Yeah.
That Warner Robins, Georgia. Is that where he was?
It was at Fort Stewart.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know where you're talking about. I got a lot of good friends from the state of Alabama. Some of my previous work experiences, some of my material that I draw upon when I'm putting content together for my podcast, were some stories it generated from working with those guys in Alabama. So it holds a pretty fond spot in my heart right now. So anyway, didn't mean to digress. Go ahead, man.
I don't know. We'll go all over the place on this podcast, man. It's kind of
that sounds like me. I start off with a very specific topic, and then I don't know what it is. I just lose. I don't want to say focus. It comes off the rails. A lot of my guests, I tell them, I say, look, I want to hear your story, but and I'm only gonna jump in if I see you kind of running off the road, and I'm just trying to get you back up on the highway. So.
Well, what it is it's more genuine that way. I tell a lot of guests, I used to have this process of writing out the whole podcast, basically. Mm-hmm. I would have probably about 4 pages of questions and notes. And first of all, it's exhausting, right?
Right.
And second, you don't really follow it anyway, Yeah,
I don't know. My very first few episodes, I was the same way. I would write out ridiculous. I'm talking copious notes, and then I wouldn't follow them. So I don't know why I wrote them in the first place. I'd highlight something here and there and try to hit on it. Every night I still put kind of a little outline together for myself, pre-interview type deal or pre-conversation, and I try my best to stick to it. But it's too hard. It loses that unique and that genuine feel to it if you start scripting stuff out too much. And if you're looking for scripted, you need to be in television or movies anyway. So
right. And actually good segue, because that's exactly what I was going to get to next is that's kind of your world there, right? from what I understand, you come from, the entertainment world. That's your forte there, right?
Well, actually, I don't. When you say come from the entertainment world, I've had the opportunity to be around quite a bit of entertainment types with different jobs and all I had. And I was always that guy that was always, taking notes or noticing something or, making myself a quick note. And I'm like, if I ever did, a project, something like that, I would want to use that. That sounds like a pretty solid, process. And that's when I started podcasting. I know a lot of people that when they think of podcasts, they think of an audio-based podcast or a video-based podcast. And I'm all audio right now because I have a face for radio. I'm not a in front of the camera kind of guy. So when I started putting this concept together for a podcast, I said, I want to, because my problem was I grew up on television. Like the TV at my house was a perfect babysitter. Because when you have two parents that are working all the time and you're home and you're supposed to be doing homework or whatever you're supposed to be doing, not going to jail mainly. You're sitting in front of television and you're watching TV shows and you're watching the structure and you're seeing how, a simple scene is just a conversation between two people. I mean, if it's scripted, if it seems like a genuine conversation, that's what you're looking for. So when I go into a podcast episode, if I'm talking to an individual about whatever, I've been fortunate. I've been really fortunate. A gentleman, Steve Joyner, I met him a few months back, and Steve was kind enough to introduce me to what I call Hollywood types, because I'm just an old country boy from Mississippi. Anybody that's been on television to me holds some form of celebrity status, because like I said, I grew up watching a lot of television and movies. So when I sit down with them, I don't want it to be this old podunk country boy from Mississippi talking to this, upper crust Hollywood type. I want our conversation to be like two friends that have known each other forever. And I want it to be an experience. I want them to be as excited about the episode or the conversation we had at the end of it as I was at the beginning of it. Right. It's hard to separate fandom a lot of times. I've had the opportunity to sit down and talk to some folks through my podcast that I grew up watching on television and movies that I was a huge fan. And my problem was, as I sit down, I try to have a conversation with them and I catch myself wanting to ask, that really stupid fan question or whatever. And I had to fight against that because that's not the direction I want to go. And then everything about my podcast from the beginning has been very, what I call TV influenced. For example, I don't know how many episodes you have in a season. Do you have a set number of episodes, or you just go to you feel like a season needs to change?
You know what? I've just been going straight. I thought about, I'm approaching the 1 year mark, so maybe I'll do, a year equals a season. But I've really just been. This will be episode number 49 that you and I are recording, and it's still kind of like season one, because there hasn't been a break, and there's been no sort of separation.
Here's some stuff I noticed from listening and watching other podcasts. I noticed just what you said. They just continually do episodes. It just is. There's no break. It's just one long piece of work. Or there's an anniversary. They did it for 3 months or 6 months or a year. Hey, it's time for a break. Let's do something else. I also noticed that somebody will dump a ridiculous amount of content at one time. Let's say 20 episodes, and then it'll be 3 months before you hear from them again. So what I was looking for is what I call structured consistency. I was always taught in every class or whatever I've been in, especially when it comes to like business or marketing or something like that, they talk about you have to be in front of the people, you have to make your presence known, and they have to remember you when they walk away. That's the three biggest points I ever took away from any kind of business or marketing class or anything like that I ever took. So what my deal was is I took a very TV approach to it. For example, I have I don't have any idea how many episodes. I think my episode Friday that was published, I think it was episode 84, but don't hold me to that. I'm not 100% sure because the problem is because I have content that I've recorded and I'm working, editing, polishing, making it, as I say, polishing the turd. I got to clean the turd. I got to polish the turd. And so I want it to be the best product possible. Like I said, I'm an old country boy from Mississippi. I probably have a higher standard for my content than some of my listeners do. Some of my listeners listen to me for a few reasons. One, crazy. I've had reviews on Apple that say, love that freaking accent. I had one, I can't remember exactly. I wish I could remember her name because she's actually given me reviews on multiple platforms, which I need to send her. I need to send her some cash or something for that because that's gold. But she said her comment was like, love the interaction, made me feel like I was part of the discussion. That's what you're looking for. If you can have a conversation with another individual and then it goes out over the airwaves and the internet and everywhere, all over the world, and that individual listens to it and says, holy cow, I feel like I'm in the room with them. Well, that's what you're looking for. Because that's what's going to take it to the next level. Now, like I said, I'm not a Joe Rogan. I got a podcasting buddy of mine named Chris Rudder. He and I were talking the other day because we're trying to do a little cross promotion between his show and my show. And he threw out this crazy stat, like when he reached 200,000 downloads, Spotify reached out to him, wanted to do like a sponsorship deal with him. Look, I can't fathom 200,000 downloads. Matter of fact, the morning that I wake up and I've hit 200,000 downloads, I might have to take that day off just to recover. So I'm not, like I said, I've had some moderate success. I mean, I've been doing it just a little over a year. I'm averaging about 1,000 downloads a week, which is, trust me, that's about 1,000. That's about 1,000 downloads a week more than I thought when I first started this. Because I'm thinking, man, I had this crazy notion in my head. I said, it'd be awesome if I could do this for about, 3 months, and then 3 months, man, if I had 2,000 downloads, I'd be excited. Well, now I'm 14, about 15 months in, and I'm averaging 1,000 downloads a week. So I still wake up every day and I wonder how in the world I got to this point that I'm at right now. And like I said, when I start reaching those hundreds of thousands of downloads, I don't know, man, you'll have to check back with me. I might have passed out. I might be in a coma in the hospital somewhere after I see those kind of numbers. So, but yeah, I took the one thing that I wanted to be consistent on, though, and I mean ultimately consistent, was I wanted to have a very solid structure to my thing. I wanted it to be an intro. I wanted it to be, the quick introduction of who I'm talking to or what I'm talking about, and not take up a lot of the episode doing it. Just a quick synopsis, just bam, just in your face, and then jump to a commercial spot or an ad spot, which, eventually maybe I'll have so many of those I won't know what to do with. But like I said, I've been really fortunate with a couple early, and I run that quick ad spot, and then I come straight back, welcome folks back. I promised you I had a guest there or whatever, and then I introduce them and we have our conversation. And I don't ever limit a guest. A guest can talk for 2 hours if they want to. I haven't had one yet to do that. And I have had a couple episodes go over an hour. But we usually stay in that 35 to 40 minute range. And I've worked really hard to kind of hone in the conversation to that, to where I start noticing the time stamp and I go, okay, we're at 35 minutes. Let me start, let me find a way to kind of start winding things down. And then I always make sure at the very end, I give them the last couple of minutes of whatever we're talking about to pitch themselves, because I want everybody that listens to my show to know exactly how they can find them, where they can find them, what they're working on, how you find them on social media. I want that because I understand one thing. My podcast, World of Wally, might not ever reach the status that my simple brain thinks that one day I might can reach. But I will say this, my brand will be recognized, because it's all about getting your brand out. You need to be branding everything. If you send out a simple post on Facebook, you need to be hashtagging your brand at the bottom of it, just so it's found in all these search engines, because it's all about. Listen, that's one thing I never truly understood till I started podcasting. This whole SEO, that search engine optimization stuff, I still don't understand it. I just know that if I keep throwing my name out there, eventually I'll come up in more searches. I do know that. But and that's the one thing I wish I knew more about when I started. I wish I would have had a better understanding of that. But structuring the episode, and then and I don't know where this number even came from. I don't even know if this came from television. But I was asleep one night. I woke up from a dead sleep, and it was just as I was getting started. I only had maybe a half a dozen episodes, published. And the number 24 popped in my mind. And I said, you know what? 24, that would be an awesome number of episodes for a season, 24 episodes. And that would also give you the flexibility if you want to take a couple of weeks off or whatever. Because here was another mistake I made. I should have been a 1 episode per week podcast from the start. That's what I should have done, because I had I had some other things going on. But no, I was going to be ambitious, and I was going to do 2 a week. I was going to do one on Tuesday, I was going to drop one on Tuesday, and I was going to drop one on Friday. Well, I learned about 6 episodes in, that was going to be impossible for me to pull off. So I stuck the first season. I stuck to it. 2 episodes to it, and it was just a drain. And I was about ready to hang it up. And then I said, no, when I start season 2, it's going to be a fresh start, and I'm gonna do 1 a week. And that's what I did. And what I did sprinkle. I didn't do it right away. I did sprinkle some Tuesday episodes in, like little special episodes or 2-part, interview kind of things. And then by season 3, I realized that when I make this new season begin, it's got to be just Fridays. And then eventually, finally, I just recently started season 4 just a few episodes ago, and I am exclusively found on Fridays now. Because it's just easier, man. You can stockpile your content. You can really polish the product up, make it, sound really good, or sound as good as you can. You hear me talk, I don't get any better. So, but like I said, and then the process was something it took me a while to kind of refine. But right now, everything's rolling for me, because I have a very set schedule on how I can do things. I have specific days that I interview or have conversations on. I used to would just, if they contacted me, I would go out of my way. If it was 9:30 or 10 o'clock at night and they wanted to talk to me, I would. I don't do that anymore. I understand that I respect their time and who they are, their status, but they also need to respect my time. So that was one thing. When I realized that's when my show just kind of took off. So,
yeah, I mean, there's a lot to unpack there. I think there's a lot of parallels that I see when putting together a podcast. I do like to record once a week. I had thoughts of doing more than 1 episode per week, just because in the beginning, you get all these ideas, right? Yeah. And I had, my first 10, 15 episodes lined up and scheduled already. To the point where I maybe recorded, 5 of them in 1 week, and I could drop them all on the following week, or I could save them and kind of, just ration them out a little bit. And I chose to go with the once a week because, promotion takes time. Letting people kind of just marinate on it a little bit, and, watching that number go up on your stats. I enjoy that every week. I think the once a week is probably, for someone who's not, Joe Rogan and can just pop out an episode and everybody will listen to it. I think it's probably your best bet, because, people look forward to it. It's like appointment TV, how it used to be back in the day before TiVo and, recording and everything. You would have to sit and wait for your favorite episode of your favorite show to come out. Not the case anymore. not that that's the case with with podcasts, but a lot of people do wait for that. When the new episode comes out, like, oh, I got to listen to it. I'm going to pop it in on my way to work, or I'm going to throw it on while I'm doing chores around the house, whatever. I get people that tell me they listen to it on their drive to work, and it's really cool because mine come out on Sunday, they'll listen to it on Monday. So what I've enjoyed is just being very consistent with it. I've never missed a Sunday, and it's coming up on a year. But I'm thinking about doing that whole season thing, and maybe taking a week or two break to kind of reassess and reformat a little. But I don't know. I just have been going at it so long now that it feels just like routine. Like it might even just throw off my routine. But we'll see. We're getting there in a few weeks. So I'm just wondering if I take that break or if I just keep going. I'll have to wait and see.
Well, you were talking about must see, or must hear, must listen. I was interviewing a couple. I'm gonna say I'm older than you. I'm probably considerably older than you. And like I said, I grew up when I was a child and a teenager. I was a 3 network kid. We didn't have cable and satellite and all that kind of stuff. So if the president was on, your night was screwed. ABC, NBC, CBS, and then eventually Fox. And I remember growing up, being a young guy, and absolutely there were certain days, certain nights, at certain times I had to be in front of the TV because it was something I had to see. Because if you didn't see it, you missed it. It was over. You didn't get another shot at it. I was having a conversation with a couple of cast members from a show called The Love Boat from back in my early childhood. Miss Jill Whelan, who played Vicky Stubing, the young daughter, and Ted Lange, who played Isaac Washington, the bartender.
That's a big one, man. Yeah.
During both of those conversations, we actually brought up that they were part of must-see television because I can remember vividly watching The Love Boat, and then when The Love Boat went off, I watched Fantasy Island. I mean, it was a Friday night, and when you're a young kid and before you're driving and all, that was a big deal, because you had your Friday night planned out. You were watching 2 of your favorite television shows back to back. So when I was kind of putting my show together, I was thinking, you know what? I want that kind of pop. I mean, I want that it to be a must listen. Now that I've gone to Fridays, I have people that anticipate that Friday episode. They get a chance. If they miss it, I don't have huge numbers, like, because I release at a very strange. I release at midnight at 12:01 a.m. on Friday. So by the time I get up to go to work, which is about 5 o'clock my time, which is I'm in the Central Standard Time, the numbers aren't that impressive. But as the weekend goes on, they get a chance to listen to it. And then I have those commuter types, on Mondays and Tuesdays, I see my numbers, on that episode going up because they're catching it going to work. And the reason that I kind of keep my episode around 40 to 45 minutes, most places, especially in the rural areas where I live, you have to drive, probably 20 to 25 minutes to work. So what they do is they catch the first part of the conversation, then they have to get out of their car. Then that's all they're thinking about when they get back in the car. Is like, man, I wonder what they were talking about. So then they jump back in the car and fire it up. And when they're headed home, they get to listen to the second part of the conversation. So, that's just some stuff that and like I said, I'm not an expert. I've never claimed to be an expert. You were talking about pumping out multiple episodes a week. Listen, it's easy for a guy like Joe Rogan. I mean, I understand he's one of the producers of his own show, but let's be honest, he sits in front of a microphone and he talks to whoever that his actual showrunner puts in front of him. And like I said, if you had to show up and that's all you did every day was talk on the microphone to whoever you're talking to, it'd be a pretty sweet deal. You'd do one every day of the week.
Yeah.
Like I said, he's got a whole crew running. If I had a whole crew, that was working on my show, I'd sit down and do, interviews and conversations with people every day. I do 2 or 3 a day, which I still do now. I still do some interviews and conversations. I still do like if I have a long weekend, because every now and then I have a 4-day weekend, I might do 12 or 13 interviews in one weekend.
Whoa.
And I got them stacked like they say down here. They got them stacked up like cordwood. Like I'll have a 9 o'clock, 11 o'clock, a 1 o'clock, a 3 o'clock. That gives me enough time between them, to kind of get my preparation for the next one lined up. But and that's what I'm saying. I think I'm at episode 80 something, maybe 84 or 85, but I've probably got if I dropped everything I had right now, I'd probably have 110 or 15 episodes.
Yeah. That's quite the accomplishment there, right?
Well, I'm gonna tell you, man. When I first started, if you'd ever told me I'd have 100, if you'd ever told me that anybody would have actually continued to listen to me 100 episodes in, I would have told you were crazy. You were absolutely insane. I can remember just stupid stuff. Like I can remember the first day I checked my analytics and I had listeners, outside of my state. I had listeners, in 10 or 12 states. I can remember the day that I pulled it up and I had my very first international listeners.
Right. Yeah.
Then I'll never forget, I had an episode that dropped. I can't even remember. It was like, I can't even remember who the guest was. Oh, yes, I do. I know exactly who the guest was. The guest was a guy named Sean Kanan. I don't know if you know Sean. You live in LA. He's out your way. Sean Kanan, the very first time I ever saw him was on a movie screen. He played the character Mike Barnes in the Karate Kid 3 movie.
Yeah. Okay.
He was the bad guy,
the bully. Yeah.
He was the bully, Mike Barnes. And just that conversation, he's still one of my favorite guests of all time, because our conversation, I was more impressed with just how well this guy had it together. This guy, even if he wasn't an actor, would be successful in anything he's ever done, because he just has that mindset. And I remember after that episode dropped, on Apple and Spotify and everywhere else I'm at, I remember because we had talked about he has such an international appeal. Like he even competed in like what's it called, Dancing with the Stars in like Italy. So and this dude's all over the place. He did crazy stuff. He told me this weird fact that during the pandemic he learned Mandarin Chinese just to pass the time. So that guy, I'm like, holy cow. So, but I remember after his episode dropped, I pulled up my numbers and I picked up like 7 countries. I picked up listeners in 7 countries after that episode. And that's got to be a direct result of it.
Right. Yeah.
And have people in 7 new countries just start listening to your show out of the blue. So yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's just, it blows my mind. If you'd ever told me a year ago that something that I said that I recorded and put out there for somebody to hear, that I'd be in 47 U.S. states and 36 countries, I said, you lost your mind, man. Ain't nobody going to listen to me. Just no hillbilly. Nobody listen to me.
I don't know if what platform you use. I use Libsyn, Liberated Syndicate, and it shows you the map, and it's beautiful because you get to see, visually where your listeners are coming from, right? And I was kind of like, when I saw Africa on the map, I'm like, whoa, I didn't like that kind of blew my mind, but same as you, I see, China, Russia, all over Europe, when all the states are lit up, it's crazy. I think the only, one of the only spots that I would love to see would be like somewhere weird like Antarctica. Like, let's go strap some Wi-Fi to some penguins and get some listeners out there.
Oh yeah, it's insane, man. I can remember the very first international message I ever got, because I've got a Facebook page and I've got Instagram and all that kind of stuff. But they actually went through my host site, which is Anchor. They went through my host site and left me a message from South Korea. And that was the weirdest thing ever. They wanted to just tell me how much they were enjoying the show and thank you for, for putting it out there. And now I know, because, they're ahead of us time wise. So now I'll drop a show at midnight. And by the time I get up at like 5 o'clock in the morning here, which is 5 hours later, I've got a dozen or so listeners that have already listened to it, the next day, which is weird too. Because when I see numbers pop up, it'll be like the 10th of the month here, but I'll have numbers showing for the 11th. And I'm like, that's strange too to me, because I just can't wrap my mind around the idea that not only is my word out there, but it's all the way around the world. It's, somebody tomorrow is already listening to what we'll be talking about today.
Yeah, for sure. Now, we touched on your podcast a lot, William, and I wanted to just, what I like to do with guests, I like to give the listeners, kind of like a sense of who they are. I like to kind of like frame the picture, right?
Okay.
Where did you grow up? What did you do early on in life? I mean, before podcasting.
Well, I was building podcast content back then. I just didn't realize it.
Right. Yeah.
I grew up in a small place called Kokomo, Mississippi. I still live in a small place called Columbia, Mississippi, which they're about 12 miles apart. Kokomo was a place. I'm trying to think of the easiest way to explain it, especially to a lot. Here's how I explain it to West Coast folks. The Andy Griffith Show. You familiar with it? Yeah. Well, the Andy Griffith Show is about what Columbia, Mississippi is, just in 2021.
All right.
it's just a very small place. It's now the place I actually grew up in, Kokomo, out where my grandparents had property out there, and we ended up moving out there to help my grandmother after my grandfather passed away. Now it is country. Now there is a major highway that runs through it, but like I said, when you get off the main highway, it's pretty backwoods. I mean, I grew up, we did the hunting and the fishing and all that kind of stuff, and we didn't have we didn't do stuff like street lights and stuff like that. So we're just a very rural area, which a lot of this part of the state that I live in is a very rural, pine forest and stuff like that. It's just a beautiful place to live. I can't imagine, you talking about you live in LA. I would visit LA, but there's no way I could live. I couldn't fathom living like that. Like I said, when we moved from out in the country where we lived, after we'd been married, my wife and I had been married for a while and raising kids. As our kids got older, we moved to town, what we call town, which is here in Columbia. And I remember the first few weeks not being able to sleep because I thought everything was so bright, because of the street lights and all that kind of stuff. It was just weird because I had grown up, I'd grown up in the woods. But yeah, I was traditional childhood. Everything was great. I had two loving, wonderful parents. My father passed away in 91. I got married in 91 in February, and my dad passed away in 91 in December. And like I said, I look back on it now, and it was destroyed me because my dad was my rock, my life. But it gave me and my mom a chance to get a lot closer, from a relationship standpoint, which was good. Right. And then, like I said, I did all the stuff you probably shouldn't have, a small country town, and wasn't a whole lot to do. Did a lot of drinking, messed around with some stuff we shouldn't have, messed around with some girls we shouldn't have either. Like I said, just lucky to have lived through a lot of the stuff I did as a young guy, just stupid stuff. And then, high school was a pretty decent athlete, played football, played baseball. I was a pretty good baseball player. I actually was being recruited to play Division I, and tore my shoulder up. That went by the wayside. Went the JUCO route, met my wife there in the junior college. But we went to high school together. We knew each other, but we met each other at the junior college. And we ended up getting married, got 3 kids, been married 30 years. Like I said, I've done, when it comes to jobs, I've done everything. I've driven a delivery truck. I've worked in grocery retail. I've worked for the Walmart company. I've worked in corrections. I worked corrections off and on for about 14 years. I worked event security for about 8 years. That's where a lot of my life stories, my crazy stories that I have featured on my show. Those are the two main areas that a lot of my stuff generates out of, the event security stuff, because we did concerts and festivals, and
right.
I've got a chance to sit down and talk to and meet a bunch of folks. I don't know what genre of music do you lean more toward?
I like a lot. I like reggae. I like metal and rock and stuff like that.
When you say metal, sir, what do you talking about? The standard commercialized heavy metal? Or are you talking about that play it so loud and so fast and they scream and you can't understand anything they say? That's what you're talking about?
Probably with the screaming and stuff. Yeah, bands like Killswitch Engage, As I Lay Dying. I don't know. Some people, it's not their taste.
Well, that event security job afforded me the opportunity to meet a lot of people in the music industry and college athletics, because we had a lot of contracts at a lot of different colleges. Alabama, for example, we had a contract there at Alabama. So I got a chance to be there on game day at Alabama with, 100,000 or 80,000 people, whatever that stadium holds. And it's insane. And then I had some pretty insane correctional stories that I've shared on shows and shared on my own show. The problem is when I first started my podcast, I'm like, man, because I had friends that would tell me, hey, man, we love these stories, man. Why don't you share them with everybody? Like, because we're talking about, they said, you ought to, get some content together, put a show together or something, and do it. And I said, maybe I will. And that was the whole premise, That's why I called it World of Wally, because I wanted to bring everybody into this insane world that, that I've had an opportunity to live. And I'm like, sure, I got plenty of content. And then I don't know what happened. Like a few episodes in, like I said, I started meeting some people like Steve Joyner, for example. Steve started introducing me to some people. And the next thing I know, it shifted from me storytelling, as the basis of the show, to more conversations with other people. And then I ended up a lot like you. I end up talking to folks that I probably would have never come in contact with. And then on top of that, I'm learning stuff about them that you're not going to find, watching them on television or the movies or reading blogs. They'll share something with you that just totally blows your mind. Like Sean Cannon, Mandarin Chinese, just for the heck of it. What in the world? So, but like I said, I've been really fortunate. I had a birthday since I started the show. I've had another birthday, but the birthday just before I started my show in January of 2020, I had a birthday in December. I turned 50 years old, and I told myself, I said, I've been talking about doing this for a while. I'm not getting any younger. If I'm gonna do it, I need to do it because you're not promised tomorrow. So like I said, I didn't prepare like I should have. I just kind of, down here where I live, they talk about when they're talking about an idea. Well, you'll hear the old folks say, well, we'll throw it against the wall and see if it sticks. Now, I could tell you the whole crazy story behind what that actually means, but it'd be pretty disgusting. And I don't know if your listeners want to hear it. But that's what I did. I just jumped into it. I didn't really prepare. I didn't do test groups and focus groups and all that. I just jumped in and took off. And so, organic. One advantage of that, though, is I have built a solid, a very core organic group. And they'll reach out to me and go, look, man, we love, these conversations you're having, but sprinkle in more of your own stories. And that's what I've been trying to do. I've been trying to make a conscious effort to sprinkle in more of my own stuff. So that's the reason I was asking you what kind of music you like, because let's see, if my memory serves me right, I have a 2-episode this upcoming Friday, and then the following Friday, I have an episode called Welcome to Miami, and then the second one is called High Seas Hijinks. And it details during my event security time. Me and a friend of mine named JD Austin from Alabama, we were roommates on these cruises. We used to do these floating rock shows, and we provided security for them during it. And they always left out of Miami, and they went to places like the Bahamas and the Caymans and Mexico, places like that. And it was a boat full of a lot of especially European metalheads. I'm talking death metal. I'm talking the band. Listen, everybody was on the boat. It was us. It was the fans. It was the bands. It was the promoters. Everybody was in the same spot. So it made for some pretty interesting interactions. We were dragging some of these guys out of the venue areas at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, and then sitting down, having breakfast with them at 9 o'clock that same morning. So it's just weird stuff. And the first episode kind of features some of the insanity that we had, because we would always come into Miami and we were there the night before, and then we boarded the boat the next day. So some of the crazy stuff that happened to us while we were in Miami, because we did about 6 years worth of these, one year right after another. And then the other one is more specifically driven to some stuff that he and I kind of reminisced about, actual events that happened on the boat while we were there, like us almost being killed by a militia group because we were looking for cough medication, stuff like that. So
that sounds crazy.
Just simple stuff. Yeah.
That's funny that you did event security as well. I did a lot of that back in late 2000s, 2006, 2007 through about 2012, something like that. But you mentioned the bands and everything, and I always saw it as like, whoa, this is so cool. I would have paid money to see this band. Now I'm right there catching their fans coming over the rail and listening to the show for free, basically, but it's definitely, you get a lot of stories doing, I was a bouncer too at nightclubs, bars, strip clubs, a little bit of bodyguard work and whatnot. And you always have a story, that line of work, always you have a story, and that's also some of the things that I share, kind of sprinkle in there when I interview people. It even got me to be on an MTV show once. Granted, it was like 20 seconds or whatnot, but I had quit a security company because I forget what for. I just didn't like it, and I was looking for things on Craigslist, and it said security MTV. I'm like, oh, that's what I wanted. I sent in my resume and everything. I found it weird they asked for a picture. I'm like, okay, I could throw in a picture, I guess. And
picture of Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Well, back then maybe it was a little closer to it. But I sent in a picture in a black suit and everything. And then I go to what I think is a job interview, and it turns out that they were using that to recruit people to real bouncers, real security, to audition for a role on what was his name, Brody Jenner's TV show that he had. It was very short-lived. It was called Bromance. But the guy, the whole Kardashian family and everything,
you're a celebrity. See, you had celebrity status going into this.
I guess. My 20 seconds on there were definitely a highlight of my life. But it was pretty cool because I didn't expect that. They're like, oh yeah, this is actually an audition. I'm like, oh, can I do that? And so they ask me like, all right, pretend like you're, we're all asleep in here and you're breaking into our hotel room to kidnap us, to take us to a reality show. I'm like, all right, I guess I can do that. I'm like, is there any rules? Can I be loud? Like, oh, just do it how you would do it live. All right. Yeah. So the first thing I do is I knock and I start cussing and screaming at the door, like, get the fuck up, get up. And I'm telling you, I pushed this door open so strongly that it broke. It was a glass door, and I got the part, but also, I was about to be escorted out by security because people downstairs thought it was real.
Yeah.
Hey,
so, just mean that's the mark of a good actor right there. If it was real to everybody around you.
So yeah,
remember
man.
Remember what I told you. After you have an interaction, if they still remember you, you've done your job.
Yeah. There you go. And I'm saying that was pretty cool because had it not been for me doing security, I probably would never got that opportunity. But yeah, people need to know. That's that right there will get you, that job will get you a lot of different stories and experience. A lot of the time people like to just kind of discredit it, like rent a cops, blah blah blah, this and that. But I had fun doing it.
Yeah, I told somebody one day that and this was after I'd left the company that I was working with. It was the greatest job that I've ever had. The problem is because I had reached a level of management with the company that I was traveling all over the Southeast. I mean, I was never at home. Now let me back up. I was based out of Oxford, Mississippi, which is where Ole Miss is at. Because I was actually that was as part of my management leg, or whatever you call it. I was a regional director. My directorship, it fell under my directorship, and it was the largest contract in that grouping. So that's why they had me based out of Oxford. So I was there quite a bit, but I was also everywhere else. I was in Alabama, I was in Florida, I was in, we did some Duck Dynasty stuff in Louisiana. We did, like I said, we had contracts all over to Alabama. We had Talladega and places like that. So I was always gone somewhere. But my house, my home, where my family was, I just reached a point, my last calendar year with the company, I'm talking about January to December, when I sat down and went through my calendar and realized I had only spent 11 nights in my own bed in 1 year, I'm like, that's it. I'm done. Because I was missing my kids. When I started with the company, my son was in the 6th grade. Let me back up. When I took the regional manager and then the regional director spot with the company, my son was in the 6th grade. Well, 6 years later, when I walked away from that position, he was graduating. Like I left the company in April. He graduated high school in May. So I missed everything. I missed his junior high, I missed his high school. I missed all of that. My oldest daughter was already in college doing her own thing. My youngest daughter, the same thing would have happened to her. I mean, I literally missed all of her elementary years. Like I didn't get to go to any school events, all that kind of stuff. I was always on the road, or I was always gone, working just insane, 16, 18-hour days, and it wasn't the stress of being in charge of people. Because, I mean, I was at Ole Miss alone, I was in charge of about 700 people. So that wasn't a problem. I understood the concept of it and how to do it. You get solid management under you. You find those people, and they essentially do the job for you. But it was just the idea of never being home. Like I would have to plan trips to my house around like an event, like going from one event to the next event. I'd get to spend a night here or 3 or 4 hours or whatever. Like I think I'll never forget, I had a road trip one time where I had to leave. I left Oxford, Mississippi, and I drove from Oxford, Mississippi to my house. I slept there that night, got up the next morning just about daylight, and drove from my house here in the Columbia area. I drove from there to Mobile, Alabama, from Mobile, Alabama to Pensacola, Florida, back to Mobile, from Mobile up to Birmingham, Alabama, which is where our corporate office was. It's Pelham, which is right there by it. And then I left there after picking up some paperwork and went to Talladega and spent 5 days there in the rain for I think it was the spring race they had there. Spent 5 days there, and then got in a vehicle and drove from Talladega, Alabama, back to Oxford, Mississippi. About 1,275 or 80 miles. And the only real break I had was the 5 days I got to spend in the rain at Talladega. So if I'd have driven that if that would have just been one big circle trip, that'd have been about 2.5 days worth of driving. So
holy crap. So definitely a lot of experience there.
Well, they told me, if you're making the big bucks, you got to make the big sacrifice. I said, well, I'm making the big sacrifice. I wish the big bucks would come through.
For sure. Yeah, that's always you know, that's what you see in security. A lot of hard work, not enough payoff. Is there anything else you want to throw out there, William, for the audience? I know we'll
And
give you a
I'm
chance
just
right now.
excited. I'm just excited that you took a crazy chance to talk to an old hillbilly from Mississippi, man. I hope I tore down a few of the stereotypes of the backwoods, uneducated, redneck, all that kind of stuff. So that's one thing I will say is I get a chance to talk to folks all over the country now. I actually had a guest. I'll never forget a gentleman I talked to from the state of Washington. And he said, man, I tell you, man, everything I've ever heard about where you're from is really negative. I said, I know, man. That's all. Trust me. That's all we hear is, I saw something on Facebook just yesterday, and I don't know who did. It's a meme of some kind, but our governor Tate Reeves actually tweeted it out, or he put it on his official government Facebook page or something, and it said, Mississippi, we're not woke, but we're not broke.
I like
Which
that.
is, that's a big deal, because it's one thing about our state is we get a real negative connotation about how we're kind of stuck back in history, and we're not. That's a huge that's you talking about branded. We've been branded that way, and we're working hard to try to get away from that. I don't know, man. I don't have a lot to compare it to. I've never really wandered a lot out of the actual deep South. I've traveled to some different states and stuff, but I don't know if I'd trade where I live right now for anywhere else in the country. So
yeah, and I think a lot of the negativity just stems from the politics. They like to associate the politics with the with the South, and I don't know. I like I said, I've had a small opportunity to travel all along the South because I drove from Georgia to California. I love the people of the South, man. It's so welcoming and inviting. Like I wish I want to go there again. I definitely want to go back to Savannah, Georgia, and check things out over there because it was beautiful, man. It was different from anything you'll see in LA.
That whole area is just beautiful. Yeah, it's amazing. And there's a lot of places in the deep side. The crazy thing is like you're from the LA area. I mean, you travel through some parts of the country that still have natural beauty. I mean, you don't have any idea what natural beauty is out there where you live because it's all been torn down or destroyed. So yeah, I know what you're talking about, man. I absolutely know what you're talking about. But
yeah,
like I said, I can't thank you enough for having me on, man. When Steve was talking to me about the possibility of me maybe coming on your show, I said, man, that'd be fantastic. I love to, I tell people since I've been podcasting now, I enjoy probably more having conversations with people on their shows than I do having a conversation with people on my show because I get a chance now to see what your style is. And like I said, a year from now, if you see me using some element of your show in my show, don't be offended. You should be flattered because I feel like if you're using something that is so amazing that it impressed upon me that I need to use it too, they always say imitation is the best form of flattery. So
yeah, well maybe William will get you a little a Zoom virtual background back for you back there.
I guess sort of saying, man. I tell people all the time, as soon as I catch up with y'all technology wise, I will. Somebody asked me the other day, one of the guys I was talking to said, man, everything I hear is about how backwards y'all are. I said, yeah, it's not our fault though. I said, we are working on it though, because our Sunday paper used to come on Tuesday, but now we get it on Monday.
All right. Well, you want to throw all your social media out there for people to find you?
Man, absolutely. First of all, World of Wally can be found anywhere podcast are heard. I can't think of any platform of the major dozen or so that's out there. I can't think of any that we're not on. I do have a Facebook page. It's very simple, World of Wally. You can search it that way. I put all kind of information on there. I put quick links to episodes. I put, guest interactions that I've had, thank yous and stuff like that. And then you also can find me on Instagram at World of Wally _official.
Nice. All right. Well, I mean, definitely a pleasure having you on. I think if we're ever to have another conversation again, we got to talk about some food from the South, because I love my food, man. I love to barbecue over here in California too. I know people think that Cali barbecue is not the same, but I'm trying my best to give it a good name over here.
Well, do what you can, brother, because I'm gonna tell you what, it's gonna have to be real good if it catches up with the kind of barbecue I get a chance to eat. So,
no, I got the smoker going daily, man. I'm practicing, So
our barbecue's so good down here. They take football recruits, these college football recruits, to gas stations and feed them barbecue. That's how good it is over here. So.
Well, maybe we do need to catch up a little, but yeah, definitely a pleasure having you on, man. If ever again, we want to chat it up, always open to having people back. But for everybody listening at home, appreciate it. Thank you. Fuck you and good night. Yeah. Subscribe to the Ignorance is Strength podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. Like, follow, and share on Facebook and Instagram at Ignorance is Strength Podcast, and on Twitter at The Ignorance Pod.